there, I'm Michelle Duval, the director of the Mindful Center. Welcome to Life on Mindfulness. So meditation is something that looks really easy to do, right? If you've ever seen someone meditating, they're just sitting there with their eyes closed. But then when we try to develop a practice for ourselves, most people discover that there are some very real challenges. So in today's video, I'm going to cover my top 10 best tips for how to cultivate a more consistent meditation practice. So if you've started meditation, but you just can't seem to make yourself do it on a daily basis, or maybe you're doing pretty good and for a couple years now you've been doing it 3 or 4 times a week and you'd like to just kind of increase the amount of time and maybe getting it to 7 days a week, then today's video is the one for you. I promise you that if you integrate even a few of these 10 steps into your daily routine with your practice, it will increase the likelihood that you'll be able to develop some consistent practice. And the truth of it is, there is no better time to deepen or cultivate a meditation practice than right now. Okay, so here we go. Tip number 1, don't worry about time. Meaning, don't worry about how long your meditations need to last, especially when you begin to cultivate your practice. The biggest mistake that I see most people making when they're starting their practice is having this conception that they need to meditate for at least like 20 or 30 minutes every single day in order for their practice to be meaningful, to count. And this is just, quite honestly, a load of malarkey. If we focus instead on cultivating consistency with our practice, rather than a certain arbitrary length of time that our practice has to last every day, you will find it way more easy to cultivate a consistent daily practice. If you set yourself up and say, okay, I'm gonna meditate every day for 30 minutes a day, and then, the stuff hits the fan, the kids go crazy, your schedule goes wonkers, and suddenly you're not able to find that 20 or 30 minutes a day, then you start to feel like a failure. You start to feel bad about your meditation practice. And we think, oh, this is just another thing that I tried to start and I wasn't able to follow through on. But if you keep it a little bit lighter and you say, you know what, all I'm gonna commit to right now is that I'm gonna do it every day, and I'm not gonna worry about for how much time a day, you will start to feel a certain light-hearted quality in relation to the cultivation of your practice. And this can be a way better mental and physical state, lightheartedness, from which to develop a practice than feeling heavy and like a failure and then it's just another task on your endless to-do list. This next tip comes from my father, who taught mindfulness-based stress reduction for many, many years. He used to invite students to commit to themselves to practice for 3 minutes, 3 times a day. 3 minutes, 3 times a day. And students really found this accessible and quite doable. And it was actually helping them work through another really big obstacle that almost everybody encounters when trying to develop a meditation practice, which is stopping some of the endless busyness to move ourselves into the practice. See, we all have a ton of familiarity with doing stuff. We're all really good at doing. What we're not so good at is just being. So because familiarity is such a powerful force as it relates to the mind, you might notice that you want to meditate, you have some time to meditate, but you keep just doing stuff because you're so used to just staying in motion. This tip of committing to practicing for 3 minutes, 3 different times a day helps us work through that obstacle 3 different times throughout the day, so you can get really good at kind of finishing with some of the busyness to move yourself into the practice. And the fact that we do it 3 different times throughout the day allows our mindfulness to kind of begin to take root and spread throughout the course of our day in a different way than if we were just committing to one sitting practice. Next tip is to actually schedule your meditation practice. Even if you've decided to do the 3 minutes for 3 times a day, go ahead and put it into your daily calendar. The truth of it is that we put everything and anything that's of big enough importance to us and that we don't want to forget to do into our daily scheduler. As soon as you begin to do this, like for example, you look through the course of the week as you're planning out your week and you think, okay, I could get that 3-minute practice in right after lunch and then right before bed, and you start to actually think it through and put it into your calendar, it does 2 really helpful things for us. One, it gives a certain level of importance and validity to our meditation practice. When we just kind of leave it into the ethers and we're just kind of hoping it's going to happen, it's like relating to it as though it's something disposable. As soon as it makes it into your calendar, suddenly it's important enough to have made it there, and it just changes our relationship to our daily practice a little bit in a really helpful way. And then the second really helpful thing it does, and what I do with my practice, is because it's in my calendar, I start to think about it as an actual appointment, right? It's an appointment with myself. So if I had an appointment with a student and at the last minute I had to cancel, what would I do is I'd work really hard to reschedule that appointment. Now the same thing goes with my meditation practice, because the truth is sometimes things happen, things shift, and if I miss my daily allotted time for meditation, because I'm thinking about it as an appointment, I'm going to reschedule that appointment because it's of enough importance. Okay, so next tip is to set up your meditation spot and then just leave it there, right? And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Another big mistake people make is they think, oh gosh, I need to paint the walls meditative blue and I've got to buy all these meditative tchotchkes, and no, that just ends to the endless busyness of our lives. It can be something relatively simple, just in a place in your house that you more or less like to be. I'm a full-time mindfulness instructor, and my spot is simply a little meditation cushion that I slide under the bench when I'm not using it, and I slide out of the bench when it's my time to practice. Voila, that's simple. Okay, so now you've set up your meditation spot, you've got it in your calendar, and ding, 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 now it's your time to meditate. And what you might discover is still on the level of mind, there's a part of you that doesn't actually want to do it. Why? Again, it's that familiarity piece. We're so familiar with keep on doing things, and it's sometimes hard to get away from things that we're super familiar with. Familiarity is a very powerful force when it comes to the mind. So this next tip can be super helpful. It's super simple, and it's almost kind of super silly, but it's super effective as well. And this is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 practice, which is when it's your time to meditate, you've scheduled it, your spot is set up just waiting for you, and you notice that level of resistance, you give yourself a countdown. You say to yourself, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's almost like a blast off, and you just get your butt up out of the chair and go to your meditation spot. I actually use this also when it's my time to exercise, because a lot of times, exercise is uncomfortable. So you get a little bit of resistance on the level of mind, but I still want to do my daily exercise. So when I notice that level of resistance, I know I have the time allocated for the practice. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I just get up from whatever it is I'm doing, I end it, and I go either do my exercise or my meditation practice. Give it a try. This is such a simple tip, but it can be so super effective. Ooh, I love this next tip as well. It leverages very real science and how we create habits, because basically we're trying to create the daily habit of meditation. This tip is called habit stacking. It's when you stack a new habit that you want to develop onto a habit that's already ingrained in your daily life experience. For example, brushing your teeth. I hope you have the daily habit of teeth brushing, right? And so what you could potentially do is every time after you brush your teeth, that could be your time to go meditate. You don't think about it, you just brush your teeth and then you go meditate. Another thing that you can do that is helpful for habit stacking, because what happens to a lot of people is even though we have the best of intentions, we want to do our meditation, we've even put it into our calendar, we can forget about it, right? The day goes by and we lost all our time to meditate. So when you're doing something like habit stacking, it can be helpful to kind of place a little cue or a reminder next to the object that you might be using for that already developed habit. So for example, I did this myself just to give it a try to see if it would work. And next to my toothbrush, I put a little statue of a kitty cat meditating. Simple, cute, whatever. And then I'd go to reach for my toothbrush and I'd see that cat meditating, and it would remind me to go do my meditation practice after brushing my teeth. You can do habit stacking with a lot of different habits, not just teeth brushing. It could be right after you finish breakfast. So in your breakfast spot, you put that little statue you've got or a picture of someone meditating, or maybe just a Post-it note that says meditation, but you put that Post-it note next to your breakfast spot, or maybe after you have your coffee, or every evening when you get home, right? So on the door to the garage, leading from the garage into the house, you have a picture of someone meditating or that Post-it note, so that the habit is ingrained of coming home and you're gonna go right into your meditation. Look for habits that you already have ingrained, that you might have a little wiggle room time-wise, either before and after, and look to stack this new habit of meditation onto that old habit. Okay, so now let's say you've taken all the previous tips and now you're actually doing your daily meditation practice. This next tip attends to one of the biggest misconceptions that a lot of people have about meditation, and that is that people think that when they're meditating, they're not supposed to or allowed to move in any way, shape, or form. I'm gonna blast that misconception out of the water right here and now. You absolutely can move and stretch your body and scratch your itchy nose while you're meditating. It's a misconception about the practice to think that every time you go to sit in meditation, you have to sit perfectly still like statue, and then your nose starts itching and you're like, should I scratch it? What should I do? Oh my God, it's torturing me. And your meditation can very easily begin to feel like a form of torture, especially if you're kind of the mover and shaker type. So here's how I encourage people who need to move when they meditate, how to do it. See if you can move with awareness. Because the truth of it is that sometimes noses itch, shoulders get tight, necks get tight, our backs get stiff, and we have the need to move or change our leg position or whatever it is. If you begin to integrate these movements into your field of practice, which simply means using the feeling of the body as it moves and adjusts as the object or the focal point for your mind, for your meditation, there's no problem. You just integrated that movement into your practice. It's less of a distraction and more of just a way that you practice. Okay, so next tip. Don't be afraid to use guided meditations, right? A lot of beginners reach very freely for guided meditations, and that's wonderful. But then as we begin to progress in our practice, what I see a lot of people do is kind of hold themselves up to some imaginary standard, and they think that if I'm really deepening and progressing in my practice, meaning I've been doing it for a while, shouldn't at some point I stop using the guided meditations? They're looked at as a form of training wheels that once you develop enough skill, you won't need anymore. But the truth of it is that great guided meditations can really be used by any type of student at any time during their practice. Beginners, go for it. Reach for those guided meditations, because then all you have to really do is press play and you can be in a meditation. For those people who have been practicing a little bit longer and start to crave a certain degree of silence in their meditation practice, great. I encourage you to listen to that, and on those days that you just want to sit in silence, you should feel comfortable and encouraged to do so. But then don't kind of look at it as a form of backsliding when and if you feel like you want to go back to guided meditations. So this next tip really attends to, again, a really big mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to their meditation practice. And this tip is all about not worrying about the fact that you're gonna have a ton of thoughts and thinking when you meditate. There's a general misconception about meditation that what we're actually trying to do when we meditate is not have thoughts or not think about stuff. But to try and not have thoughts and not think about stuff much more closely resembles repression and suppression than it does meditation. You are going to have tons and tons and tons of thoughts when you're meditating. I don't care if it's your day 1 with meditation, your day 30, your day 300 with meditation. Your mind secretes thoughts just like your stomach secretes enzymes. Or I've heard another teacher talk of it. He said, your mind pumps thoughts just like your heart pumps blood. It's just a part of what your mind does. The mistake that most people think is they think that they're failing with their meditation because they're having so many thoughts. Or they start to fight all those thoughts because, again, they think, oh, I'm thinking about my work. I'm not supposed to think about work. I'm supposed to be meditating and not having thoughts. And then their whole meditation becomes this experience of fighting their own mind, which is like the opposite of meditation. And it becomes so frustrating that that's the main reason that so many people give up on their practice long before they've ever really been able to experience the benefits. So don't worry about those dang thoughts. They're gonna come, they're gonna take you off path, you're gonna go down different rabbit holes with your thinking. The practice is really about learning how to become aware of when your mind is no longer where you want it to be, when you want it to be there. And then to develop the capacity or the skill to bring your mind back again. That's really what we're in essence practicing when we're meditating. Not the fact that we never go off in thought, but that we develop a capacity to bring some awareness to our own mind, notice when it's off in places that we don't want it to be, and develop the skill to gently bring it back again to where we want it to be when we want it to be there. Oh, I just love this next tip so much. Don't forget you can always use your ordinary moments as opportunities to practice your meditation. So really there are 3 aspects of meditation practice, 3 forms. One is formal practice. That's when you're just meditating. You're either sitting or lying down in your spot. You're listening to a guided meditation or doing some silent practice. You're not engaged in any other activity except for meditation. That's formal practice. Second type is informal practice, or what I tend to call a mini meditation. And this is that experience of using our ordinary moments throughout the course of the day to practice our mindfulness. The first couple of sips of your cup of coffee in the morning, standing outside watering your garden, just standing there feeling the sunshine on your face. When you go for a walk and you start to really tune in to this feeling of just being alive and in your body, outdoors in the breeze and in the sunshine, when you're petting your dog, when you're laughing with your children, all of these are just basic ordinary moments of daily life that with a little bit of intentionality, we can turn into a meditative practice, which all it means within the scope of mindfulness practice is that we choose to become intentionally present or intentionally aware or mindful of that experience. Boom, now we're suddenly bringing our meditation out with us into our daily lives during our ordinary moments. Yeah, the bonus tip. One more last tip. If you can, at some point, it doesn't have to be every single day, but at some point, if you can find a way to connect with a group for meditation, to meditate in a group, oh my gosh, that can be so super helpful. There are a few things that can hold us more strongly in our meditation practice than sitting with a group of other people. Even if that group consists of 1 other people, your husband, your wife, your dog even, to have some other living being with you in your space of meditation at certain points throughout your career as a meditator can be really super duper helpful. I've created opportunities at the Mindful Center so that we can do this, so that on every first and third Saturday of every month, we can come together virtually online and meditate together as a group. If you've been to some of these, you will know it changes your practice. If you want to give it a try, but you're not sure where to go to, or where to begin, or where to start with, come to one of these monthly webinars and you'll see there's a different feeling. Even though we're all in our own homes and just connecting virtually online, it feels different to meditate with other people than always alone by yourself. Okay, so there you have it. Those are truly my top tips for how to cultivate consistent practice. And if you were to put into play most of them, if not all of them, I can pretty much guarantee you will increase your capacity for consistent practice. We have to do it with some degree of consistency so that the focus of our mind, the capacity of our mind, becomes enhanced and changed and redirected with some intentionality through our meditation practice. Okay, give it a try, see how it goes. Let me know how I can support you. Take good care.